Hello everyone and welcome to today's event. My name is Rachel Klein and I will be your presenter today. Today we have part one of a three-part series that I put together on membership reporting. So we're going to go over just the step one screen today in membership reporting. The step one screen has to do with who or what criteria you need to build a report to see the specific people that you're wanting to see on the report. So kind of thinking through your database, what information you track on your individuals, and then how to pull that information out of the database. Then part two, part three, we're going to talk about the different layouts or outputs that you can utilize to see the people that you've decided to pull on step one, but to see them in the particular way or organized fashion, you need to see them using different layouts. And that's going to be part two and part three. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So I opened up membership already. A couple things I want to point out in membership itself. If we go into people, there's basically, this screen is split into two. On the left, you have all of your family information over here. And then on the right, you have all of your individuals' information, okay? On the right, these fields are customizable for the most part with this Customize Fields button. We have some really good information on getting started or how to customize these fields to be able to track the data that you need to be able to report on. So once you have these fields created and filled in for your individuals, then we can go in and report on these specific fields to pull the data out that we need to see. Okay, so good data in is going to give you good data out. Okay, bad data in is going to give you bad data out. You're not going to be able to get the reports that you're looking for. Okay. So there's two ways to go into reports here in membership. Right here in the middle of the screen, if you click this reports button, it's going to jump you right to the step one screen, which is what we're talking about today. Another way to get to this screen, say you have the people screen open and you can't see the reports button, is up at the very top. You're going to hit reports and export, reports and labels, and then reports directory export. Okay, this takes you to the exact same step one screen, okay, regardless of how you get to it. So like I said, the step one screen is the focus of today's webinar, but the step one screen is where you input the criteria of who you need on your report. Step one has nothing to do with what data you are going to see for the people that meet your criteria. Okay, so let me explain that. A lot of times I get a call and I'll say, someone says, well, I need to see their birth date on the report. So then they think they have to put birthday in here. Not necessarily. I could put a criterion very simple of everybody ages 2 to 10. And then on the next screen, that's where I would put that I need to see the column for their birthday to have that data displayed for them. Okay, so step one is strictly who do you need to see on this report. Okay. So there's three sections here on this first tab. This first tab is called the Query Builder tab. This is your criteria, again, who you need to see. If you ever forget, right up here at the top, it's going to reiterate that for you as well. You have step one or option one, option two, option three. Option three has to do with the donations module. Okay, if you don't use the donations module, then you are simply going to ignore steps two and steps three. We aren't worried about those bullet points here. Okay. Now, if you have a report that you do want to include donations information, then you can include these step two and step three down here at the bottom, okay? But for now, let's say we're not worried about anything in regards to giving or pledging. We really just want to focus on criteria from membership. So I'm going to hit this Edit People Selection Criteria method. And it's going to pull up this Edit People Selection screen. This is where you really work with the membership database and you tell it what you need to see. Under here where it says Select a Membership Field, if I hit the down arrow, you are going to have an abundance of fields to query on or use to pull specific people. Confirmation date. Say you only want people who have a confirmation date between, and then you can put in a specific time frame. Let's say we want to do through July 1st through today. If I choose this criteria and I add it to my selection, when I go to generate my report, only people that have a confirmation date between these two dates are going to show up on my report when I go to print it. Okay? So what you put in here is the deciding factor for who you see on step 2. You can also do birth date. This is a really popular criteria. Say I want to see everybody who has a birth date in the month of, let's go with August. Okay. You can add that selection. So I want everybody who has a birthday in the month of August. And let's say we want people who are going to be older than 80 or going to be 80 or older. We could add and then we could come up here and we could do an age criteria if we wanted to. Greater than 79. And this allows us to build. So for someone to be on this report, they have to be older than 79 and they have to have a birthday in the month of August. Okay. Now let's talk about the and the ors here. This can get a little tricky when you're starting to build out criteria of who you need. Just keep in mind when you use and, that means for someone to be on your report, they have to meet both sides of the criteria between the and, or above and below the and. So for someone to be on this report, they have to have a birthday in August and they have to have an age greater than 79. Okay. Now if I get rid of the and I shoot an or in there, this means they have to meet either or of the above or below criteria. So for someone to be on this report with this criteria, they'd have to be 79 or older, or they'd have to be older than 79, or their birthday would be in the month of August. So keep in mind, or means they just have to meet one of these. If you have an and in here, that means they have to meet both of them. Okay? I hope that's clear. And you could have a couple of these. Say you have very specific criteria that you need people to meet. You could pop another and in there, and then we could say we only want to look at people with a status code of active, associate, or out of town. So for someone to be on this report when we go to print it out, they would have to meet this criteria and this criteria and this criteria. Okay? So you can really get in here and you can really, really fine tooth who you want to see on your report itself, okay? You can query on attendance if you want to see who's attended or hasn't attended, who's communed, who hasn't communed, you have that ability here. Groups and classes, if you have that set up, skills and interests, you can query on that. Visits, if that's something you track as well. But if you have the field in membership, you're most likely going to be able to query on it here when you go to run a report. Okay? Over here on the right, giver number, pretty straightforward. You can query on people who have a number, who don't have a number, or who have a number in a particular range. So if I just want people who have numbers 1 to 200, I would uncheck to include those without a giver number. I would check to include those with, and then I would input the specific range that I'm wanting. Again, if you're not worried about giver numbers, don't change anything here. It's automatically going to include everyone. Okay? Really commonly used option right here is this categories checkbox. So categories are specific to the family. When you purchase the software, it comes with members and it comes with visitors. You can create additional categories if you want to. I've seen staff, I've seen potential, but depending on what you need, this is a really fast way to just focus in on a specific group of people. So if I want to report of just members, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to quickly uncheck visitors, and I'm going to say okay. And that's only going to pull those individuals that are in a member household. Okay. Down here at the bottom, couple extra things. Inactive, by default, inactive people are not going to show up on your report. So anyone moved away, passed away, etc. are going to be left off. Say you need to run a report of everyone that passed away in 2022. If that's the case, We're going to go to inactive reason. We're going to say death. I'm going to add that selection. So they have to have death in their inactive reason field to be on my report. I'm going to say and then I'm going to add my inactive date because I have a specific date range that I want to focus on. So I'm going to choose between to give me the range option. And then I'm just going to type in 1/1 2022, 12/31/2022, and add that. So for someone to be on my report, they have to have an inactive reason of death, and they have to have an inactive date between last year. Okay, so they have to meet both of those criterias. But by default, inactive people are left off of reports. So I have to check this inactive box to tell the software, actually, I do want to see those people that are meant to be left off. And then you would say, okay. All right. Couple other options here, membership groups. These would be your groups and classes that you've set up. If you wish to see them on your reports, you would check that box. Most of the time, you are going to leave that unchecked. Donations individual givers and donations group givers. These are fields that you would have utilized or created these people over in the donations module. So these are going to be your one-time givers, your people that you don't want to clutter up your membership side. If you do need to see them on a report, you would simply check those boxes. I would say majority of the time these boxes are going to be left unchecked. Okay. So that is your edit people selection criteria screen. Let me close out of this. Then we're going to come down here to this number 3, add giving pledging selection criteria. The possibilities in here are really endless, so we're just going to do an overview of this. What this allows you to do is take your membership criteria and also put in some giving pledging criteria as well. So say you want people who have given, so we would choose only those who gave, and let's say we want to take it back to 2020. Okay. Then down here, we can also specify if we want pledging to be part of our criteria as well. If we say only those who gave and only those who pledged within this date range, for them to be on this report, they have to have given more than $1 and they have to have pledged. Okay. You can play with this. There's an and or here as well. So you can really build some complex queries. So say I want only people who have gave or only those who pledged. That's going to pull people who have given regardless of whether they've pledged, or people that have pledged regardless of whether they've given, because we're using the or instead. Okay. Now keep in mind, you can't break anything in here. You're not going to mess up your data. This is simply how you pull the people to output the information that you've put in. So I would suggest coming in here and kind of playing with it until you get the hang of how building reports and thinking through different criterias is going to work, specifically for how you've customized your database. That's one of the great things about Church Windows is you can really customize those fields to track specifically what you want and then build a query to pull out what you need. Okay. So that is the giving and pledging query. Now, with that being said, these can be used together. So if we come in here, for example, and I want to look at people that are over a certain age, or actually let's do between. Let's do people between the ages of 18 and 35. Okay. I want to see everyone who's given between the ages of 18 and 35. So I'm going to use a membership criteria of age. I'm going to say is between 18 and 35 years old. And I'm going to include visitors on this as well. I'm not concerned about their giver number. I don't want inactive people. I'm not concerned with anything down here. So I'm just going to say, okay. So here's my criteria. And I'm going to say, but I also want to look at those who have given. So I'm going to say and then I'm going to come down here to add giving pledging selection criteria. I want only those who gave, and I'm going to do it back to 2022. And under pledging include, I'm going to choose all because I'm not worried about whether they've pledged or not. I'm really just concerned about those who gave. Add. All right. So now I have membership criteria and giving criteria that I'm starting to build together. I can come up here to the Accounts tab, and if I don't touch anything here, then it's going to look at all of my giving accounts. But if I was concerned about just people who gave to missions, for example, and general fund, I could pop those two giving accounts, remember these are from the donations module, over here to the right, and then that would add to my criteria. So it would only look at people who gave since 2022 to one of these two accounts. Okay. If I'm not worried about anything with specific giving accounts, I'm not going to select anything here. Okay. Next thing, really important tab, is your sort tab. Always verify your sort tab is sorting in the order that you want. Here in sort field 1, we're getting an alphabetical sort right now, but if you scroll through this list, you really have a lot of different options for how the people who meet your criteria can be sorted in. If you wanted to sort them by age, you could choose age, and then it would take, as long as you have ascending, youngest to oldest, oldest to youngest, whichever you prefer. Typically, alphabetical sort's going to be good for this, but again, do whatever you need. It's flexible, okay? Now, let's say this is a common criteria that you are going to be running rather regularly. Okay, if that's the case, you don't need to come back in here and build out this criteria every time. You can save them. So down at the bottom here, it says Saved Selections. I'm going to hit my little floppy disk icon here, and I'm going to do givers ages 18 to 35. Okay, and I'm going to say OK. And now at the bottom, I have this saved selection in here. So if I close out and I come back into reports here in 2 months, I hit the down arrow, I can choose my givers ages 18 to 13, and it's going to input that criteria for me with just 2 mouse clicks. So it's really easy to build a criteria and save it, okay? Let's see, accounts sort. Okay, so that is everything that I wanted to go over with you guys today. Looks like we're right at the 20-minute mark, which is perfect. If you have any questions, please feel free to type those in. We aren't talking about step 2 today. That's going to be next week. But please attend those events if you're interested in them. But step 1, again, this is just who do you need to see on the report. It has nothing to do with what the formatting of the report is going to look like. Okay? If you got the information you were looking for, feel free to leave the event.